Good evening and welcome to today's Tropics for June 17th, 2021. Please note, I'm not a meteorologist and this video is just a collection of my thoughts and opinions about the storm I'm talking about, and for any decision making, please consult the National Hurricane Center or your local officials. So today I'm looking at potential tropical cyclone 3. This was just designated at 5 p.m. today. It's still not a tropical cyclone, but it is potential tropical cyclone now, so that there can be warnings issued. It's still quite messy. It's a big, broad, and now elongated area of spin, and you can see that kind of old area that was in the Bay of Campeche. But now there's some newer spin here that's making this elongated because it seems that there's some sort of transfer that's trying to go on from it being centralized over here in the Bay of Campeche to be something else trying to get going under that convection further east north of the Yucatan Peninsula. At the same time, embedded in that northeasterly flow, you can see a few mesovortices. One is right here. You can see that kind of going out, so that those are kind of getting amplified under the convection and then getting spat out as they rotate in that kind of gyre flow. So it's yeah, your kind of usual messy June sloppy storm. Take a look at the water vapor imagery, and you can see why there isn't a whole lot going on in the Bay of Campeche. You've got this upper level trough here that's negatively tilted now, and not only do you have westerly shear pushing into the Bay of Campeche here, which would shear convection that would be trying to get going anyway, but since it's on the upstream end of the upper trough, that means there's a upper level convergence, and so you've got sinking air here. So there isn't really much convective forcing that would cause something to, or much of any convection to get going there. So you've got this kind of decaying gyre, kind of low pressure that can't get stronger because there's no convection that can fire over it. Now on the flip side, on the other side here, you've got this amplifying upper level anticyclone here. While there is some shear, there's also the upper level divergence, which is helping to generate some convection on this side. And at the same time, you've also got that trade wind flow coming in from the Caribbean, kind of getting stopped out because there's that developing circulation here. And so the convergence of the trade winds and PTCs or threes developing circulation means that you've got upper level divergence and low level convergence. So that means you have a favorable environment for convection, and so that means the area that's over here isn't really as much favored anymore. Instead, the new developing area of vorticity that is closer to the convection seems to be more favored for development prospects in the near term. We had a recon mission go in there earlier. We didn't really find anything that was very surprising. Mostly just a bunch of kind of weak spins and a couple wind shifts here. So a few mesovortices going around, perhaps, but nothing very organized. You're not seeing anything that says, okay, this is like a tropical depression or even that close to it. So it's a very um, disorganized cyclone here still, or disorganized area of low pressure still. With that broad area spin and those little mesovortices going around. So far, there's a very good circulation inside that or area of convection, but you do have the stronger easterly winds to the north, along with weaker ones to the south. So that is kind of a form of that vorticity, and generally has a flow go around like this. So you, again, you've got that trough kind of elongating out here as the pressure's lower due to the convection and kind of favor this area in general. Let's look at the GFS here. This is one model among a few others that kind of shifted to favor something else going on instead of the actual kind of gyre area forming. Instead, it seems more likely that the area that actually has the convection going on, so this area would be favored uh, due to the convection concentrating vorticity. And indeed, you have developing something on the northeastern end. We still don't know exactly where that will be, but we it seems that confidence is higher that some vorticity will concentrate over there, and you'll kind of leave the rest of the gyre kind of stick around in the Bay of Campeche for a little while before it kind of gets sheared out by the southerly flow. Uh, and so then you'll have this, and fortunately, the gyre here might kind of prove to make things a little erratic at first. You'll have that general southerly flow because of the ridge pushing in, but at the same time, you might see it, depending on where it forms, you might see it kind of rotate a little bit to the east, or to the west, that is, uh, as a result of kind of rotating around this gyre that is not officially forecasted, but there's the possibility for that. But eventually, it'll probably approach the Louisiana coast at somewhere here on the weekend, and yeah, generally, as we've expected for the past few days, kind of go north and then start curving a bit more to the east as it rounds the ridge, and then goes generally northeast uh, as it gets more embedded into the westerlies. Now let's take a look at the modeled upper level flow for a second, and this frame is valid about an hour, a bit less than an hour before I'm recording. And you can see it basically confirms what we are seeing on the water vapor loop. Yeah, water vapor is very useful for looking at these upper level features such as this. And yeah, there is that westerly flow and upper convergence. But as I mentioned, there's that upper divergence here. You can see the kind of divergence here, the southerly winds aloft here, and then more southwesterly here. So when you have the vectors like that diverging, that means you need uh, to kind of fill that hole that's there. And since you don't have vertical motion in the stratosphere, you tend to have it come from below, and that means there's rising air. So we've got this kind of amplifying part of the anticyclone and upper level divergence, which will keep convection in this area. And since that and this will probably persist in general until the storm hits the coast. So that means as you have PTC3 probably on the western side of this area near the upper trough, the actual convective forcing will probably be further east. So we'll have an east-weighted storm. Again, not unusual for this time of year. Now, you can see that quite well in the precipitable water. Not only do you have that shear, but on the western side you have uh, like air wrapping in from the north. So that means you get that dry continental air, or at least drier air, and that's also going to hurt convection that's trying to form. But on the eastern side, you have that uh, deep tropical fetch that's going to bring up that moisture from the deeper tropics here. And so you're going to have a lot of the weather on the eastern side of the storm. Again, not anything too unusual for this time of year. As for the wind impacts won't be the major thing with PTC3 because it is not going to be a very well organized cyclone if it even becomes one. Uh, it does not have time to organize into much more than a weak tropical storm. But there will be some stronger winds on the eastern side for two reasons. One, you'll have the storm moving to the north, so even in a well-organized cyclone, you would have the stronger winds on the eastern side because of that movement. The wind on that side is moving in tandem with the cyclone motion, but at the same time, there's not going to be a lot going on the western side, but there will be a lot more weather on the eastern side. So that just makes it even more stark, where you have pretty weak winds on the western side, but much stronger winds as a result of the uh, additional thunderstorm activity there, uh, and the addition from the actual cyclone moving north. Now let's look at the official National Hurricane Center cone here. It doesn't, again, it does not have that kind of turn to a bit to the west, but it also has a bit further west in the beginning. So if we do see something going further northeast, it'll probably be something like mostly a wash, I'd say. Uh, but it does seem likely that it'll landfall somewhere in the on the Louisiana coast, and then quickly start turning more northeast again as it gets into the westerlies here. You'll notice that the tropical storm warnings are pretty much all on the eastern side, and that's again because there won't be too strong winds on the western side, and most of those wind impacts, even though wind isn't the major threat with this system, will be on the eastern side. Now let's take a look at the um, biggest impact that will come with PTC3, and that is the rainfall. And like the wind and pretty much everything else, this is to the east of the storm. If you look back at the forecast cone, you can see it kind of comes in here, and uh, you'll notice that all the rain is on the right side, or um, not all the rain, but more so all the potential for flash flooding is on the right side of the storm. Again, that is not a surprise because of the additional moisture and effective forcing that will be present on this side. And first into tomorrow into Saturday, you'll see it kind of come up east of the system on Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida Panhandle. That'll be the first kind of push of moisture. But as it passes, or as it makes landfall and kind of passes by this area, you also notice something, or the flash flooding threat is also further east. And so, well, if you're in an area that is prone to flooding, do be prepared because there isn't a whole lot of time before PTC3 or whatever it is by then comes in and delivers a large area of moisture and again possible flooding. And as always, stay safe. If you have any questions or comments about my video, please let me know. Thanks for watching.